Folks, welcome to the weekly Matches Net podcast. I'm your host as always, Phil Brandt, joined with my regular co-host, the excellent Colm. How you doing, mate?
All good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. You have a nice weekend?
Good weekend, mate. United won. That's the main thing, isn't it?
It did. It was a brilliant fight Saturday night too with Lee Wood and Mauricio Lara. Really, really good weekend. Um, Yesterday being the pinnacle, United, of course, getting a fantastic 3-0 win against Leicester. I thought before that game it'd be a difficult game. We'll talk about that, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about the takeover, which I've decided that this is going to be the only platform I'm really going to discuss it on, because Twitter is utterly impossible to discuss this on without getting pointed views, without being accused of prejudice or anything else. I'll talk about my own personal views on it, and the review process and the vetting process, and I'll give you my views. And if you don't like it, it's okay. You can do. I don't really care if you like me or dislike me for it, but I can only tell you how I feel. I don't want to tell you how. I know what the popular thing is to say, and we'll get likes and retweets and downloads and all that there and get out of boys, but I'm going to say what I've always believed from the start. We get into that in a little bit. We'll talk first of all, before we get to the depressing part, which is the takeover, which to be honest I'm fed up talking about. I'll talk about the fun part, which of course is United winning yesterday. There were similarities in that Leicester game to me in the Barcelona game, in the sense that there was a period in the first half in Barcelona where Barcelona were really on top and they looked really dangerous, and it was very, very concerning. Ten Hag makes some tactical adjustments, completely nullifies that, changes the game completely. Rashford scores, probably against Ronald Play, to be fair. Took his goal really, really well. He had a very similar chance at the new camp the other night. I was wondering if that would be in his head. He showed brilliant composure, confidence, and the fact that the chance at the new camp, the one that he missed, didn't affect him. And once again showed he's the most informed striker in the world. And it's not just his form, Colm, that impresses me. It's the fact that Ten Hag has kept him injury free, which is, again speaks to the brilliance of Ten Hag, the preparation. It's not just what he's got right on the pitch; it's the fitness, it's the preparation, it's all the things they say teams embody their manager. We have got a real football manager on our hands here.
I think the thing for me is that thinking about where we've been and where we're going, and this transition we're in at the moment, the best thing for me is the unity, the team spirit. It was something that just wasn't there. Ten Hag's bred this into the side where every single man plays for not just themselves, but for the man who's lining up alongside them. And I think, like, when you look at this squad and you look at the team spirit amongst it, that's the best thing that we have going for us at the moment. We're a team. We're a team united, and that's something that we completely lacked and we were missing out on over the last few years. Now, whenever it gets to it, and you said something there about Twitter, and I think it's important. A lot of people are very quick to jump down players' throats on Twitter. I seen so many things over the weekend against Weghorst, seen so many things against Fred. I don't know if these people watch the same game I'm watching, because, like, I go through some of these comments and I get it. I do. I understand some of the Weghorst comments. I understand why people maybe are negative towards him. We're winning games, man. We're winning games. We're playing the best football we've seen in years. And that's the harsh truth here. This is the best football we've seen in years, but there's still people jumping down Weghorst's throat because he's not scoring or he's not doing this. He's actually been unbelievable. I don't care what anyone says. I rate what he's doing. I know you actually don't agree with me as such.
I
You don't
wouldn't
think he's
say he's been
unbelievable.
unbelievable, like,
You
but
think he's,
definitely, I'm,
I
I'm
think he
definitely
has. I
glad
think
he's
his link-up
there.
play. His link-up play has been... See, if you took him out of the side and you put Martial in, you'd know all about it. It's as simple as that. I'm telling you, people would realise how much he'd be missed if he was taken out of this team and it was Martial starting instead of him.
I think if Martial was fit, he would be starting ahead of him, to be honest.
I
Weghorst is brought
disagree.
in to be a backup striker, but I agree that he's added another dimension that I didn't expect him to add. And some of that is the unbelievable. I don't know how many other managers would have done that. Would have taken a big 6'6" strapping lad and stuck him in a role that no one saw coming. I want to talk about something about Ten Hag, because one of the things that I love Solskjaer as a manager, but one of the things that did bother me was this comment that someone needs to get the club. You know, that someone, you know, we hired Solskjaer because he understands the United way, the United culture. He understands what we should be. And Sir Matt Busby played for Liverpool and City. Never set foot inside United until he was hired. Ferguson, you know, never set foot inside United until he was hired. Did he, you know, nor had Ten Hag. Now, I think these nonsensical barriers to hiring people show how clueless the previous regime really were. And the things that mattered to them that shouldn't have mattered. You know, I understood why whenever they sacked Mourinho, they wanted someone like Solskjaer, right? Because Mourinho was antithetical to what United should be, right? An attacking team on the front foot, exciting, all that. I get that completely. But to turn around and claim that we need to hire somebody to get the club, I mean, Kenny Dalglish got Liverpool. The Klopp, you know, I mean, it's just so ridiculous to me. And there's no question who the better manager for Liverpool has been. I'm so glad that United have people in positions of power that are making decisions based on who's right for the job, not because they played for the club or because they have United DNA and all that bollocks.
I think as well is like when you think of what we're doing at the moment, it's all really down to the man management style that Ten Hag has adapted. He's seen what certain players need. Some players need a kick up the backside. Some players need the arm round the shoulder, and I think that's been evident if you look at Luke Shaw and his progression at Manchester United this year. Look at Sancho now since he's came back, since he had that tough time and he was out. And look at the difference Ten Hag's made to him, for example. Because I think Sancho in a team over the past couple of seasons fades away into nothing. That's the truth. I think if he goes through that spell and he
You're
tries to
probably right.
integrate back into it, he fades away into nothing. And that's where Ten Hag and his man management style and his style of management is really helping us at the minute.
I want to, quick segue, I want to point out this comment that from Harry's boy. First of all, mate, my sincere condolences. I hope you're all right. I hope your family's all right. Thank you for the kind comment, and I really appreciate you and the fact that your father wants to listen to our podcast. I know it's very difficult, so thank you very much, and I hope you're all right, mate. You look, you're right in the sense that United wasn't a club you could rehabilitate yourself in. You know, once you prior to Ten Hag, once you had difficulties, people really recovered, and Sancho, I point to Luke Shaw as well, that has been rehabilitated, and others mentally. You know, obviously Rashford. We'll get to him, but Sancho wants to get and scoring down the middle, mate. I genuinely feel that's his best position. I genuinely feel that's where he's most comfortable. You see, if you're going to play down the middle, you have to be technically very, very good, because you receive the ball constantly in dangerous positions where if you turn it over, it's really, really costly. You turn the ball over out wide, you'll usually get away with it. And Sancho to me is very technical. He's very, very good with his feet. You know, he is someone that plays very good in the holes and the spaces. I looked at a lot of his Dortmund goals and assists, and they were either from the inverted winger position, which I think is also a position that he could play. Because what you see with United in the middle is a lot of rotation in those positions between Fernandes, Weghorst, you know, comes out wide, plays in the half spaces. I think Sancho is someone that could be really valuable to United down the middle.
I agree with you. I think you said that a few weeks ago, and I'd said about the inverted winger style. I think like the old style of an out and out winger is more like a Garnacho style, isn't it? Almost where Sancho just he thrives on being down the middle, and I think actually he could play in the 10 role. I know what you're saying about his potential of if retaining the ball in that position is tougher. If you lose the ball in that position, it's going to have a detrimental effect on the team. But really, I think Sancho could thrive in that position for us. I think I want to point out one thing though about Fred is that Fred gets pelters every single week. He gets absolute pelters. He's an easy target, and I think people just giving pelters every week, right? What I'll say about Fred is he does all the simple things good. He doesn't start for Brazil for any reason other than he's a really, really good footballer. He's a very, very influential part of this team. And if you don't see that, you don't know football. I don't care what anyone says to me. I get pelters all the time for backing him, but I will back him to the hills. I think
I
he
agree.
is. I think for like if you watch Fred, he was everywhere, right? He wasn't great in the first half, but the second half he was phenomenal. And I'm throwing that word out there, phenomenal, because in the second half he was the man of the match. In the second half,
Well, United
I
were
get it.
a phenomenal second half.
Yeah,
Very few were good first half, to be fair. And Ten Hag, once again, sorry, mate, I mean, to go ahead,
no,
finish your
okay.
point there.
No, I was just going to say that Gary Neville made a point that it's with Fred, you don't know if you're going to get 20 minutes of brilliance and then 20 minutes of nonsense, and that is something that might happen with Fred, right? Maybe he's not consistent enough. Maybe that's a fair point. But when Fred's on his game, he's one of the best at what he does, and he has taken players in the opposition teams out of games, and it just goes on by. No one notices it, and everyone will give him pelters because he does one thing stupid. Fred
I
is
know.
honestly is so integral to this squad.
But there's some other, like, they do the same with De Gea. They'll point out his one mistake and
Yeah.
overlook the fact that he keeps United in games at times when probably no other goalkeeper would. But I think with Fred, I said this in last week's podcast, he reminds me a bit of Ji-sung Park in with United, where under Ferguson were not the most glamorous player, but does a lot of things that other players don't want to do. Runs his balls off. He tracks runners really well. You'll find Fred on the edge of your 18 tracking a runner, making sure he's intercepted a key ball, and then 30 seconds later he's on the edge of the other box. I think he is a very, very important player. And when I look at United's recent wins, I think he was really important in those, especially that Leeds game away, right? Where I thought he showed tremendous discipline and not getting sent off. And he was, I mean, I don't know how many times I saw Leeds play balls into the box with runners and Fred being on the end of it. Even away to Barcelona, I thought he played well. I think the Sabitzer has also really smoothly fitted in. Another
Yeah, big
player
homework
that to
there.
me, we always talk about, I mean, think about Colm, some of the language we were using before about other players we brought in the midfield. We need to unlock them, we need discipline, we need a year to adapt to the Premier League. Bringing players in January is really hard because you don't get a pre-season. You have to hit the ground running. You have to integrate into a team right away. The pace of the Premier League is the intensity and the pace of the Premier League is unlike anything else in the world. Other leagues have unique identities. Say the Spanish league is much more technical. The pace and intensity and the speed of the game in England is very, very hard to adapt to. So, but they've never played in England before. Seamlessly stepped in, and once again another really shrewd signing at an important time when he's pretty much started, with the exception of his debut, I think, every game. Obviously, I know he was suspended with Barcelona, and since he's been here, same with Weghorst, those are two really important January signings.
I think as well, like the Sabitzer point's really interesting because he's going to be available in the summer for 23 million. I think was the fee thrown about, right? I
Bargain.
think it is vital that you get him for that price. Think about the strength and depth, right?
Think about who's going
Fred,
for 23 million, mate.
Christian. I know that's that in itself, but Fred, Christian Eriksen, Bruno, Casemiro, Sabitzer. Like now we're talking about a stage where you have got options, where you have got strength and depth, something that we've lacked over the past 3, 4 years, where we've been going, oh, it's Fred and McTominay again. It's not going to be like that anymore. So I really, really hope. Like obviously we've only seen him in a couple of games, but how he started. I've seen him play before. I've seen him when he was in Germany. I've seen him in Austria. He looks like a really, really, really good player, and I hope we sign him this summer.
Well, we've said about one of the things they need is players that they can rotate without a massive drop off in quality. And I think Sabitzer gives you that, right? I think you can rotate Sabitzer in when you have everyone fit and you don't get a huge drop off. This is obviously one of the issues with Casemiro. When he doesn't play, you need it. I mean, that first half, that you see that Harvey Barnes run where De Gea saved that. That was where I was looking at going, we need to miss Casemiro right down the middle. Right? I don't think that happens if he's there. And so I just think the drop off is really big. Brilliant to see Kobbie Mainoo get his Premier League debut at the weekend to 17-year-old. Excellent to see that happen. It was other things that really pleased me. That second half was the complete contrast to anything that we were seeing last season. And Ten Hag walking off the pitch with that, rousing, the fans and beat Barcelona together, be here Thursday. I mean, it's hard for me to describe my debt of gratitude to what Ten Hag has done at this football club and what an exceptional, not just coach, but manager. I mean,
Me,
unbelievable. Like, there's so much that he's got right. To get a football team playing like that where players are willing to give everything for each other, for the fans, for the shirt, that is not easy. And let me tell you something, Colm. I know people don't want to talk about this, but United are the best form team in the country right now, with the best in-form striker right now. And if they can maintain that form up until May, I'm telling you right now, United, I don't want to say it too loud, but if United can maintain that form, remember Eriksen still to come back, you're going to get a fresh Casemiro because he's had a few weeks off pretty much, with the exception of that Barcelona game. I thought he was right to bring Rashford off at the weekend because he need to rest him. Anthony to come back, I still think he can contribute. Sancho finding his form again.
you laughed at me at the start of the season when we both sat here and you said, like, what's a realistic expectation?
I would
Uh,
never agree. I mean, I had no
And
idea
you
you were
laughed at
capable
me
of
when
this.
you laughed at me when I said we should be in every competition to win it. We're sitting here. Yes, granted, there was a World Cup break, right? We're sitting here just moving into March next week, and we're in every competition we entered. We've got a cup final this weekend. We are 2 points off City. Am I right in saying 3 points off City?
3.
And there's a genuine possibility that we could be title contenders. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but title contenders. Arsenal are going to blow up. City are the team to beat, and we're 3 points behind them. I mean, Phil
Arteta looks like he's about to blow up.
Phil did say we would be relegated. So I mean, this is it. A game of opinions. Football is a game of opinions, and
I
Phil was
think
wrong
that's
on
your
that.
Maz account.
Do you know what? He
Batter
actually
me every week.
he battered me every week about my facial hair, and I haven't heard nothing since. I like this guy, MPCHMR. I'm a big fan, mate.
Slipping bribes. I'm taking shots
Yeah.
everywhere here, I'm telling you. We're going to have to disable comments in these shows going forward.
I took it for weeks, mate. I'm glad it's going your way at the minute.
I have a big massive head, lot to say. But I thought again, Garnacho getting taken off at halftime was a smart move. Right? I thought they were getting hurt down that left-hand side, right-hand side, partly
Make no
because
mistake,
Garnacho
though.
didn't want to come back.
I think that's a game last season without Ten Hag's management. Leave me be calm with him. But I think that's a game last season without Ten Hag's management that we let slip. That we come out the second half and we are trying to get that goal. We're trying to do things different that we concede on the break. That's the difference with this team. We find a way to win when there's no way to win. And I'm not talking just about the weekend because we've done it quite easily, really, at the weekend. If you think about it, from halftime onwards, it was a breeze. But that's because of Ten Hag's management skills. I mean, this guy saying about Hannibal coming back and he
Yep.
looks good for Birmingham. I agree. Hannibal looks great for Birmingham. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the first team for the next couple of years, probably. I mean, it's good, looking great for Birmingham, but let's see how he can do it in the Premier League. Give him a few years at Birmingham. No real expectations. I mean, I seen something there about Kobe.
Well, and
Mainoo
possibly
reminding him
Ahmad,
of
and I
Garrett.
think he may have done the right
Yeah,
thing leaving
Ahmad.
Ahmad
But
there. Sunderland.
again, I think Palestri could do with something like that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that would be exceptional for him. A really good championship loan. I mean, I thought he did quite well when he came on against Leeds. But good to see United getting Garnacho's contract more or less out of the way, which has been something that the kid. Yeah, I did we did a podcast last week. I wasn't particularly happy with some of my emotional responses to the Garnacho comments, to be honest, and obviously some of the Mason Greenwood stuff I don't think is really appropriate for us to be discussing anymore. I'm not going to get back into it, but he's an exceptional young talent, and we're really, really lucky to have a kid that can come on and change games. he reminds me a bit of Solskjaer in a way that when he comes on, I think he really analyses games from the bench. At 18 to do that's unbelievable, and he makes tremendous impacts when he comes on. And usually last 20 minutes when players are tired, his pace, his directness, his confidence. Maybe if Rashford scores, Eddie scores. I don't know the first one, but I really like him. And
But the thing is, there's not that many like him out there at the moment. There's no
no,
real out and out wingers out there. He is something that everyone. He's a coveted player because everyone needs someone like that on their side. And at the moment, we've got him. I mean, it looks like he's going to sign a contract, 5-year deal.
but we should be getting behind our young players. I completely understand seasoned professionals taking criticism, and because obviously when a player reaches maturation, if a player is at his peak, they're going to get viewed differently. I get that. But 18-year-olds, I think about where I was at 18 physically and mentally, and how easy it would have been, especially with social media, to where the doubt, the negativity screams really loudly in your ear, and it's really easy to get inside your head. I think it takes enormous mental strength to play for a club like Manchester United, where the focus is just truly unbelievable, as we've seen with this takeover talk, which is so utterly depressing at this moment in time, which we'll segue to in a minute. I want to talk to you a little bit about what your expectations are of Barcelona and Newcastle.
Barcelona, I want to say I'm so confident that we're going to go through to the next round that I think Barcelona is the least of our worries. I don't mean that I'm not dismissing Barcelona, who are a great side. They're missing Gavi, they're missing Pedri. They've got a bit of problems there. I think the atmosphere at Old Trafford will be like something we haven't experienced at Old Trafford in a good number of years. We're playing good football. We're in a good stage of the season. I fancy us to do the business on Thursday night. I just think, I don't know, there's something special about nights under the lights at Old Trafford, and I don't know, I just think we'll have a bit too much for Barcelona, especially at home on Thursday night. Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday again, I feel much the same. I think we could go out there and blitz Newcastle, but at the same time, this is a massive game for Newcastle. This is their cup final of cup finals, really. I mean, from where they've came from to where they are now, they really want this. So I don't think by any means they're going to be a pushover. I do fancy us again. I'm going to be there, so I can't wait for it. I mean, it's been a while since we had a cup final, but I don't know. I just fancy us.
They've certainly been wobbling, and I think one of the things that I like about Ten Hag is he projects an air of confidence. And I think United, one of the issues with United in the past when they were getting to finals and losing them was the mentality. You know, did they really believe that they were going to go there and win the game? I think that Ten Hag will have United going to Wembley believing they're going to win that game. Obviously, the Newcastle goalkeeping situation won't help them. If you're third choice goalkeeper for a reason.
I don't read
So
too much into that, to be honest with you.
yeah, I think I mean, we wouldn't surprise me to see if Karius plays half a game of his life. Obviously, the last in memory of Karius is that Champions League final, and we'll probably want to address that, and some perfect opportunity to do so. But I don't think these things, when it comes to deciding who wins these finals, will be key. I think it's going to be about how United play. Will Thursday be in Newcastle don't play again till the League Cup final. You need to have to play on Thursday. The hope is you don't get any injuries in that game. No key injuries to key players, which would really change. Your would really change how you look at this game and the potential outcomes. If Rashford or something was to pick up an injury, it'd be devastating. So if United can get through on what would be ideal on Thursday is to be going just like it was against Leicester, sitting me a couple of goal lead, and where you could make changes and prepare for that final. It definitely is a big advantage not to play until next Sunday for Newcastle. United are probably running on adrenaline a bit, momentum. They did look tired in that first half, I'll be honest. But Ten Hag was scathing in his criticism, which in some sense I look at him and I'm like, this guy is, he expects the very high standards every week. And you could see United responded to a bollocking at half time against Leicester. I think he'll have them prepped properly. And as he says in his own words, finals are to be won.
How important is it to get that first piece of silverware
Massive.
for us? Because, I mean, just the injection of confidence it gives going into the second half of the season, really, because this is like the second half of the season that we're going into now after this. Like, there's just so much that can come off the back of that. I think, obviously, as well, we've got massive, we've got massive aspirations as a fan base, but really, when you think about the reality of situations, we haven't been in a situation like this for so long that it feels weird even talking about it. Manchester United in a cup final, Manchester United in a massive game against Barcelona 3 days before, Manchester United in a title race. These are things that we haven't spoken about for years. Still seems weird. Ten Hag's done this in less than a year.
Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. I mean, since the second game of the season, after that Brentford game, United have been the most informed team in the league. I can't believe we're even saying that. I want to quickly comment on something that Robbie Norman's saying here, because we were talking about this before we went on the air, because you were just had mentioned you got an email from United saying the ticket prices are going up 5%. Essentially, United saying that they're going to cover 50% of inflation. In other words, it should have gone up 10%. They're going to cover the other 50%. It's the first ticket price the Glazers have had in a long time, to be fair. It does seem to be a bit of strange timing considering what's going on at the football club that they would announce that, given that whoever owns the club by April, assuming that's what happens, I mean, that's the decision that could get
Well,
reversed.
they've said on that email that the season ticket has to be paid for by the 5th of May, which I think is interesting because the season isn't even over by then. Normally they wait until the season is over. The last Premier League game, I think the last Premier League game's on the 29th of May this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's true.
I don't know.
Strange the way that they're asking for the money on the 5th of May as the latest renewal date. I mean, realistically, if we've got a new owner coming in, surely that's something that's going to wait until then, or is this a separate entity altogether? Is this just how the club and the powers that be that are at the club at the moment, who likely won't change, have decided that the ticket structure is going to go going forward? Is this something? Honestly, I'm not too sure. I mean, I just find it a weird time that they've sent this email out.
Yeah, it is a bit strange, to be honest. Obviously, that segues into the discussion about the takeover that blew up on Friday, obviously, with the expectation that we knew that that was a soft deadline with the bids have come in. And honestly, I've grown tired of this completely. I'm completely fed up with it. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns in this before it's over. It's not a guarantee that the Glazers will sell, by the way.
I think it is.
Well, let me just say a few things, mate, right? What is a guarantee is that the football club has to change beyond recognition. If United's books are appalling, right? And I'll talk a little bit about Ratcliffe, I'll talk a little bit the Qataris and what have you. You know, whoever wants to own Manchester United, they must be vetted. I don't care. As simple as that. And that goes for Jim Ratcliffe. You know, Jim Ratcliffe's tax issues, his fracking issues, his environmental issues definitely needs to be looked at. 100%. Now, this is a topic that is utterly impossible to discuss on Twitter. Because, and I'm not just talking about kids here, I'm talking about some grown men who should know better, seem to be personally offended at even the mere mention of a must statement or retweeting a Jim Ratcliffe bid statement as if you're taking something personally from them, which then proceeds to result in a litany of abuse, not just at me, but at many others. So when people tweet me and say, what's going on, I don't want to tell you anymore, because I don't want the litany of abuse that comes with it. My children see some of that, my kid sees that. And then he'll say to me, why are you being called a racist? And it's impossible to talk about this. He's 16. He's a United fan. He knows my values and principles in life. He knows that I'm entirely consistent on that, regardless of who it is. I've been a vocal, virulent critic of the Catholic Church for their molestation of children in my country, for burying children in unmarked graves, for putting women in forced labour camps, for backing the Nazis in World War II, for denying women access to healthcare. I'm a father to 2 daughters, and they mean more to me than anything in the world. And anyone who denies their equivalency to other human beings, we've got a problem. Anyone who denies a human being's right to love somebody else, we've got a problem. Anyone that denies their agency, we have a problem. I don't care who it is. I don't care in whose name it's done. It doesn't matter to me. And it is entirely appropriate that journalists ask questions about potential owners and their background and who's owning football clubs and why and who they're connected to. Because undoubtedly, and in Qatar, the biggest victims are fellow Muslims, undoubtedly. So if you endorse quite abhorrent views on other human beings, then I have a problem with that. Manchester United fans opposed Rupert Murdoch's bid back in 1989. Not just because, and they wrote the Monopolies and Mergers Commission, not just because of the fact that they didn't want someone like that owning the football club, given that he was the owner of Sky, and he would be completely unethical for the owner of a broadcaster to own the biggest football club in the country and determine how TV rates were negotiated. But also because of the fact that he's changed the body politic in countries by putting out absolutely despicable racist shit. Nonsense. He has radicalized people. He has endorsed horrendous treatment of immigrants, migrants, other human beings. I don't want someone like that owning my football club. Okay? You don't have to like my views. I'm not asking you to feel the way I feel. I'm not asking you to endorse that. I'm not asking you to like me. I don't really care, to be quite honest. Right? It's entirely appropriate that Manchester United Football Club, whoever wants to own it, right, is commensurate with the values of the football club. I understand why you want the money. I understand why you want the signings. I understand why you want the investment at Old Trafford. I do too. I hate the Glazers. Not just, as I've said, because of the way they've run the football club, but because of who they are as human beings. Right? They're not nice people. So I want someone to own this football club that is consistent with the values that I identify with Manchester United. And I loved when United opened up their stadium to the homeless. I loved during COVID, Manchester United made, community contributions, financial, otherwise. I love what Marcus Rashford did with his platform when he helped other people, because there is, in my opinion, no safe haven for anyone who's a bigot, for anyone who's a sexist, for anyone who's a homophobe, for any of those people. I don't care where you come from, what your background is. I live in a country where the LGBTQ community just in the last year have had 2 mass shootings, right? And you will not find me being morally inconsistent on this. I will criticise it to the hilt. We've had women say they don't want Mason Greenwood back in the team. So how do you square having people own the football club that have abhorrent views on women? I don't care if that offends you, because it's not me that's the problem, it's you, right? Women are our equals, they're human beings. I don't care, and this is not me proselytizing, this is something that matters to me. Jim Ratcliffe should absolutely be scrutinised to the hilt, and it's entirely appropriate that journalists do exactly the same. His environmentalism needs to be questioned, his tax issues need to be questioned. 100%. So when it comes to these people trying to own this football club, if Jim Ratcliffe is involved with passing laws that deny a human being's humanity, the right to love whoever they want, the right to be whoever they want, the right to equivalency, the right to equality, the right to agency, if he's involved in that, he should be slaughtered for that, as anyone should. Manchester United don't need people like this owning their football club. Manchester United can accomplish the greatest awards in the sport, the greatest trophies in the sport, Champions League, without being owned like this. I have been a virulent critic of City and their owners, and the fact that their fans are incapable of criticising their owners. I've been a virulent critic of PSG for doing the same, Newcastle for doing the same. Because there is some things that are more important than football. And that's my view on it. I'm not going to keep going on Twitter. I don't care who it is. right? Whether it's Martin Edwards, whether it's JP McManus and Magner, whether it's the Glazers, whether it's Louis Edwards, I don't care who it is. You and journalists are entirely appropriate to ask questions. And if you turn around and say, I don't care about that because they're going to bias players, maybe you want to take a hard look at yourself.
I don't
Sorry,
have
that's my
anything.
view on it, mate.
Don't have anything to add to it. I mean, really though, is there ever going to be a right owner? Is there
Well,
ever going to be someone that ticks every box who is this wealthy? Because I think it's a fair comment to say that there's, and I've said it before on this, it's not always going to be the grass is greener on the other side. There's always going to be issues with people of this wealth, of these stature that we're talking about. Like
yes, of course.
who really is the front runner? It looks like Qatar.
Well, I have issues with Jim Ratcliffe's bid and beyond the ethics, but I'm talking about the debt, which
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean,
Oh, I really don't understand why he would take out that much debt or through any of us to fund what is essentially a badly run business and really has limited financial growth, has limited potential for further growth financially, without major structural changes to football. I don't understand where that return is coming from. I have issues with the fact he's 70. Who's going to take over the football club in 10 years when Jim, if Jim passes away, right? What's the contingency? And, with this talk about 69%, the reason why he's buying 69% is that's the only mandate that Rain Group have to sell. Because that's how much the Glazers own of Manchester United. The rest is owned by other people. The Glazers have been selling off Park United for a long time. So, obviously, and Jim hasn't talked about removing all of United's debt. That concerns me. I don't want that. I don't want investors offering the Glazers financing to stay. I desperately don't want that. And what I would say is when the Red Knights were trying to take over United back in 2013-12, they were also, the anchor of that was the Qataris. Qatari money. That's on the United We Stand Andy Mitten podcast where you can hear Jim O'Neill actually talk about this. So, the Manchester needs that investment, no question. It needs the investment in the city. It's a northern city that badly needs investment. It's a country that runs at a deficit. The England runs at a deficit financially. It needs the investment, no doubt about it. But it is entirely appropriate that human beings that are going to own this football club are vetted and must are well within their rights to speak for their members, to release statements, as are other independent organisations that are comprised of Manchester United fans are entirely appropriate. And you are not racist for asking questions. I'm sorry. No matter how much that pisses people off, it is a vile. There's a couple of things that if you accuse me of that really do bother me, and that's one of them, right? Because in my life, I do everything I can possibly to make sure that I treat every human being the same. And I live in a very diverse country, and my social circle is comprised of very diverse people who I love dearly. Hispanic people, African Americans, Latin Americans, whatever, right? And I'm very proud of that. That is an insult that lands heavily on me. And it's killing my desire to even want to talk about this on Twitter because it's utterly impossible. Because as soon as you say something, just the mere retweeting of Jim Ratcliffe's bit, I'm a Manchester United fan, I cover Manchester United, I should be retweeting stuff like that. The first couple of comments, fucking scumbag, racist. I'm like, why do I want to do this? So I don't mind people asking me what's going on with the bid and everything, but I don't want to comment anymore because it's utterly impossible. And to me, I know some kids do this and that's fine. But if you're a grown adult doing this, the only thing, take a look at Laurie Whitwell, Andy Mitten, all of them are getting slaughtered. It's despicable. It's absolutely despicable. I assume people's aversion to Jim Ratcliffe isn't based on their personal prejudice. I assume that it's not racism is the underlying reason why you don't want Jim Ratcliffe to go to the football club or anyone else. Anyway, honestly, social media has distorted so much. It certainly has its values. as you know, I'm a massive proponent of mental health and treating people and human beings with dignity and respect across all spectrums. That's something that really matters to me. And I just wish there was a way we could talk about this in a way that didn't trigger people. I want the same things they want. I want an Old Trafford investment in the stadium, investment in the infrastructure, new players. I want to compete. I'm not even worried about the Qataris taking over United and United dominating world football because I still don't think that will happen. I still think you can only sign 22 players. You know, there's still Real Madrid will still sign world class players. Barcelona will still sign world class players. Other clubs will still sign world class players. Man City and PSG haven't been able to buy a Champions League between them, so I don't think that it would result in massive domination. FFP still limits how you can do that. I mean, I don't think it would also result in Mbappe and all these players signing for United tomorrow morning. So that's not even my concern. My concern is I want people to own this football club that sees my two daughters in the same way they see my two sons.
I think that's a fair point.
I'm not asking for superiority, mate. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just asking for the two people that mean the four people that mean the most to me in life, in my life, and my children, and every other parent will be the same way. And so I cannot endorse anything, anyone, or any human being. I mean, I rail against anyone that tries to deprive anyone of human rights, anywhere, in the US, anywhere. And it's entirely appropriate that anyone involved in that should be vetted. And there's nothing wrong with journalists asking those questions. Anyway, I did a podcast on this on Friday because I do think there's a lot of hypocrisy. I do think that there's a lot of stuff written. There's no question United are looked at in a whole different lens than the rest of world football, or probably the rest of England. I think United and Liverpool are held to a different standard. There's no question. The gatekeeping time is over. Legally, there's no way to prevent a Qatari takeover, nor should there be. Foreign investment is key. Is really, really important, and you can't discriminate on where that money comes from. But the people behind that deserve vetting. There's nothing wrong with that.
100%, mate. You're on the money on that one. Can't disagree with you. For once.
Man, honestly, I just can't indulge in human cruelty or cruelty to any other people. I can't, I'm just not on board with that, no matter what. And there's nowhere you'll find me inconsistent on that. Nowhere. Go through my Twitter, go through my social media record.
One thing is that you'll be consistent on that, mate. You might be inconsistent in other matters. You might tell me that United will get relegated. You might tell me that all these things you said you never said, but this is one thing I can't deny.
Well, you also have to remember, right? I've taken more drugs than Lance Armstrong, so there's a little bit. My memory's not the best, right? It's so.
I'm just glad we have a loyal fan base here who watch every week, and some of these people remember some of the madness you say at points, and then I go, right, this guy told me he's not going to watch the World Cup. This guy told me he's not going to watch the World Cup, and then he watched the World Cup. I actually was going to tweet you today.
I was actually thinking about that comment. I probably said I had no interest in watching the World Cup, which I didn't have.
Yeah, and then I turned around and I said to you, I've been thinking about this all week. It's been on my mind. I actually turned around and said to you, okay, so categorically, Phil, you're telling me you're not going to watch the World Cup. And you said to me, mate, I'm telling you now, I'm not watching the World Cup. And I said, we'll see about that. And then we ended.
I don't believe that happened. I think I think you're like a police informant. You remember things that didn't happen at all. So definitely you need to be on a watch list. Definitely don't be telling this man any secrets. He's informing the police and all types of things. There's no question about that. But I don't know. It's possible that they said that, but I don't believe I did. Anyway, no. Listen. It is what it is. We will see what happens. There's a lot will happen between these bids, and Jim Ratcliffe is not a panacea. And I have major problems with the content of his bid, and I
Right, right.
and contingency plans and what have you. We will see what happens. Colm, as always, mate, thanks very much for doing this. Thanks to all of you for downloading the podcast, liking it, and following us. Much, much appreciated. Love you all very, very much.
The
I hope
Taoiseach,
your
fill up the
mental
brain.
health is good. We've met, and that's the other thing. I'm reeling against these Ireland is full arseholes. Right?
Oh,
Yes. No, no,
oh, I
no.
don't want to start him. I don't want to start
No,
him.
no, I don't care. I'm not having that. Right? I'm an immigrant. And
You're not having what? Sorry.
I'm talking about I was also reeling against those arseholes, those Ireland is full arseholes.
Oh yeah, that's shambles. That.
It's despicable. All right, mate. Leave it there. Thanks very
Yes.
much
Ciao, Elliot.
for downloads, likes, retweets, everyone. Take it easy, mate, and
Speak
enjoy
soon.
the rest of your day, folks.
You too. Speak soon.
See ya. Bye.